Good evening. It's a little past 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Sammons?
Here.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Madigan?
Here.
Ms. Marlin?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smythe?
Here.
Mayor Pressing?
Here. The first item is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, June 17th, 2013.
So moved.
Motion by Ammons. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jacobson. Any additions or corrections? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. Are there any additions to the agenda? I don't see any additions. Petitions and communications. I have Carlos Donaldson.
Carlos Donaldson, 406 Brookins Drive. Just a follow-up from my public comments from last week, I meant to mention William D. Generic, interim comptroller, who resigned after being appointed comptroller effective July 2nd. He should be commended for his support of the employee who was not reappointed to her position in the finance department. This speaks to his integrity and commitment to a person who has worked extremely well in her position and to the department he supervised. Knowing that in his not resigning could have resulted in him and others in the department not being reappointed in the future years under the mayor. That should have been in my statement last week, but I just did want to mention his name. I think I mentioned something about the comptroller, but to let other people know just what type of person he is, along with Eric Jacobson and Diane Marlin. Have a good one.
Thank you. Ann Tamulitis. Oh, do you want to speak now or wait? Wait, okay. Brian Adams.
Brian Adams, 410 West Elm Street in Urbana, Illinois. I just had a few comments to make regarding last week's council meeting and the discussion of the Zeta Tau Alpha House landmark nomination. First, to suggest that citizens concerned with the unique architecture and history of Urbana submit landmark nominations for ulterior motives is insulting. Submitting a local historic landmark nomination requires hours of extensive research, not only regarding the building in question, but also its historic context. Citizens who are willing to take on the lengthy and demanding task of researching a building and preparing a landmark nomination should be commended, not vilified, for identifying unique historic and architectural resources in our community that have gone unrecognized. Second, City of Urbana staff accepted the CTA nomination as complete, so the assertion that the nomination is somehow incomplete or deficient is unfounded. Further, city staff always reviews and evaluates the nomination process and presents its findings to council and the HPC. Summarizing an applicant's nomination is simply a rehashing of staff's prior review and recommendation of a nomination in an abbreviated and objective presentation to allow the nomination process to move forward in a timely manner. I don't believe it's a burden or extra work for city staff. In addition, Urbana's Historic Preservation Ordinance is a carefully crafted document to foster the identification and protection of Urbana's unique architectural and historic monuments. It was not created overnight and is in accordance with similar ordinances throughout the state and country. I would advise against tinkering with the ordinance based on objections that are irrelevant to the question of whether or not the building in question is historic and architecturally significant. The ordinance is working as it should, providing a forum to recognize a unique architectural and historic monument in our community whose historic integrity is potentially in jeopardy based on what has been presented at the past few meetings. As has been stated over and over, Brianna Kraft planned and was prepared to present her nomination at the originally scheduled meeting of the HPC in May. As the property owner failed to attend that meeting, the nomination was rescheduled for June. By that time, the nominator had started an out-of-state internship and was unavailable to attend subsequent meetings. She did send a letter to council explaining this and did attempt to present her nomination at the last council meeting by phone, but was apparently unable to do so due to technical problems with the city equipment. Further, the representative of the fraternity failed to appear at the last council meeting, as far as I could tell, to discuss the nomination. Finally, I've conducted several years of extensive research into the life and works of Urbana architect Joseph William Royer. I've published a book on his life and works and have traveled throughout the Midwest, visiting surviving examples of his architecture. Therefore, I'm very familiar with Royer's architectural style and have no doubt that the ZTA house reflects his design ideals and guiding hand. To suggest that Royer had no role in the design of the building or that attributing the design to him somehow diminishes his status as an architect is simply ludicrous and absurd. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop King James Underwood, did you want to speak or just? Okay, that he is opposed to, or he's concerned about the resolution of the problem at Dr. Ellis subdivision. Reverend Dr. Evelyn B. Underwood, the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, also concerned about the resolution of the problem at Dr. Ellis subdivision. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Urbana City Council? Okay. We're coming up to the next topic, so did you want to speak or just register that your opposition?
We'd like to speak.
Beg your pardon?
We'd like to speak.
Okay. Come on up. This is unfinished business, the ordinance number 2013-06-054, designating a historic landmark at 1404 South Lincoln Avenue, the Zeta Tau Alpha Sorority House.
Good evening, council members, aldermen. We're here tonight to, my name is Colleen Ramey, and I'm with Meyer Capel Law Firm in Champaign, and I represent Zeta Tau Alpha Sorority, Fraternity Housing Corporation. We are here tonight to, again, just briefly summarize our position on this matter. We feel that at each step of the way we have followed the ordinance. We have, with respect to what Mr. Adams referenced, it is perfectly within the ordinance for the property owner to object and request that it be deferred. They had only a couple of weeks' notice of this. Is that correct, that you only had a couple of weeks' notice that this was of the petition, and we didn't simply fail to appear, but we asked for as the ordinance allows, asked for this issue to be addressed at the subsequent meeting. Conversely, the Preservation Commission did not actually hear evidence from a petitioner or anyone on behalf of the petitioner, and we did not have the opportunity to cross-examine anyone making a presentation on behalf of the petitioner or challenge any of the factual or the assertions that were in the petition. Therefore, as several of you have noted, this process is flawed. The way that it has been conducted here has not been in following with the current ordinance, and to allow it to go forward and to designate this house pursuant to this particular process as a historic landmark would be in contravention of the ordinance as it stands now. And it may need some revision, but even the ordinance as it currently is was not followed. And to approve, to grant the proposed designation would effectively be to deprive the property owner of due process. We're also here to answer any questions that you may have. I believe that there were some questions at the last Committee of the Whole meeting, and Ann Tamulitis, on behalf of the property owner, is here to answer any of those that remain.
Are there any questions? Dennis?
So as Brian Adams was saying, the process of being able to discuss the nomination with the original nominator wasn't possible by the time that the nomination came before the HPC the second time, or the time that it was finally discussed and put on the docket. The nominator had taken an internship in Washington, D.C. But the individual has attempted to call in to be present by telecommunication, which is a valid form of receiving and interacting for the members of the City Council to take and vote on issues that are before the Council. And unfortunately, that telecommunication or the communication by phone conferencing wasn't possible because of technical problems in the city office. But we have been assured that the individual is still interested in doing that, and also suggested that they could be contacted by Skyping. So if we were able to arrange for that, to give you a face-to-face interaction with the individual who was the nominator, would that satisfy your need to do the cross-examination to your satisfaction?
It would be a start. I think at the public hearing was the place for evidence to be presented, and clearly we are beyond the public hearing, and several opinions and other factual type evidence has been presented. So yes, I mean, we would like an opportunity to interact with the petitioner, but really that should have happened back at the public hearing before the commission. And this has now taken up a couple of months and a lot of money, so we would prefer a resolution tonight. But
okay, I appreciate that, because as you know, the Historic Preservation Commission merely advises, but the City Council in this kind of a situation has the authority to make a decision. And we're open and willing to listen to these the support and consultation of the nominee, the original nominee, to hear her comments about why she thought this was an important nomination. You'd like to hear about it. And so my suggestion is that we arrange for it at our next meeting, and let the nominee present the case, so that you can then use this time to satisfy any questions you have. So I'm just saying that if you're interested in hearing the nominee speak in person, and if indeed Skyping and telephone communication is a valid way of appearing and even voting in the City Council room, I think that we could find a solution to solve this issue, perhaps not tonight, but at our next meeting. So if you'd be willing, and if you're interested in hearing it, as I think you indicated so, I appreciate that.
let me just make it clear. Our preference would be that there would be a vote tonight, because we're tired of coming to the meetings. And this has, we have, the property owner has been driving down from Gurnee now 3 times, and will come a fourth.
I need to.
But it's taken a lot of time and a lot of expense, and to try to correct the problem from the back end when all the, we've had the momentum going
Yeah.
forward is.
I really appreciate that. This is the end that kind of counts. This is where the true action will occur, and we would like to accommodate you as best we can.
Okay, Charlie?
I think that I think Ms. Tamulatis or
Ms.
there-
Rame? Me?
Mrs. Rame, I'm sorry. Somebody raised an issue about what can be done, maintenance and so on during this period. And so I was going to ask Libby and or Robert to clarify that real quickly here. I assume ordinary maintenance can be done, but what if other things need to be done? Can they ask to proceed with certain improvements or changes as if they were designated a historic property? Would they be able to make changes if they were the sort of administratively approved sorts of changes that would occur anyway? If they want to get some work done in the meantime here, what can they do and what can we accommodate?
For the most part, maintenance does not require building permits. So if you wanted to do a major addition or, a new roof or something like that would require a building permit, and those would be on hold until the process is complete. However, if you had a situation like fire safety or the sprinklers or something that rose to that level, or an emergency of some sort, we do have an override provision. Does that answer the question? So you would work through our building safety department, and we can, in matters of life safety, safety of the property, we can override the current moratorium on building permits.
Okay, we had been told at the beginning of the process that we could do nothing to the house, so we've sort of been in limbo.
Tied to
This whole
building
time.
permits. The language in the zoning ordinance talks about
Okay.
building permits.
We had spoken with someone on staff who indicated nothing.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Carol.
I don't have a question, but at the heart of this matter is, again, in my opinion, the attempt to actually supersede the ordinance and make accommodations where, in many cases, accommodations should not be made. I don't believe that the Planning Commission's recommendation should be carried out here at the City Council. We are to determine whether it should or should not be designated based on the evidence presented and based on the ordinance presented. And that hasn't been done. And to add 2 more weeks, which we won't have council meetings for 2 more weeks, as well as to add additional expense that, of course, the council or the Planning Commission we're not paying for the attorney representation on this matter. I think this should be voted on as it stands, and that the ordinance should be followed if these are going to come before the council. The council is supposed to be the neutral body to look at the legislation, because we're a legislative body, and advocating one way or the other and making special accommodations is concerning to me.
Okay, we are at unfinished business. Ordinance number 2013-06-054. Now, I think Eric was next,
That's
and
fine.
then Mike, okay?
So I wonder if staff has a response to the allegation that the ordinance was in fact violated.
Point of order.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the question on this because it's not necessarily an allegation against staff. It is the responsibility, in my opinion, of the council, and I'm entitled to that opinion without having a debate between staff and the council member.
Oh, my intention is to get staff insight on this point.
I think we've had it. They've given us a full recommendation.
Okay. Eric wanted a
Yeah,
comment from,
Yeah, I'd like to
Robert Myers?
persist in my request unless the chair rules that it's out of order.
well, there's a dispute between council members, but Robert Myers is here ready to answer that question.
We were careful to follow the ordinance exactly and the rules of procedure. The chair of the Landmark Commission had the rules of procedure before her, and she went point by point down every point of the rules of procedure. So we followed those exactly.
Okay. Is there a motion, Charlie?
I'd move to defer this to our next meeting, which I'd like to be August 5th.
I'll second.
You want it to be August 5th?
I think I was the next in line.
Okay, well, go ahead. I mean, you can speak after a motion is made. That's traditionally the time.
I was actually going to make a different motion, and
Oh,
it was
okay.
my turn in the order.
Okay, well, let me see.
Motion's on the floor.
There's no second to the motion?
I did it.
Oh, Dennis seconded the motion? Well, you could certainly move to amend it to be your motion. That would be in order.
I would move to amend the motion to act on this ordinance right now, this evening.
The
Is
point
there
of
a
order?
Is there, well, let's just, okay. There was a motion to defer, and then there was a motion to amend it to say that we should vote on it today. Okay, so there's a motion to, that was made by Mike Madigan and seconded by Carol Ammons. So we can vote on the motion to amend.
Actually, a move to defer, even made after their motion, before or after their motion, is special council rule that automatically, with a second, sends this to next council meeting. It's not
Well, in either case,
debatable
it's
or
going to
anything.
be, it's going to be voted on. So if that's correct, we can, I guess we have to vote on this first one, not the second one?
You have to vote on the amendment. I mean, the first motion was made, regardless of what order you said people would speak. A motion was made by, I believe, Alderman Smythe, seconded by
Okay, he's saying
Alderman
that's
Roberts.
did you say that was non-debatable, Charlie?
It's a special council rule.
Oh.
The
Okay.
clerk could explain that if needed.
Okay, let's ask the clerk to explain the rule, please.
The motion to defer takes precedence. So when Charlie moved to send this and Dennis seconded it, then that's what it'll do.
Okay,
That's what it
so
is.
here's the thing. It doesn't really matter what order they're in, I don't think, because you either have the votes or you don't have the votes. That's what it boils down to.
Point of order.
Yes.
You recognized me as the next in the order of speaking.
Okay, I apologize for
No,
not
no,
calling
no,
you earlier.
I'm not asking for apology. I'm suggesting a point of order because the order of speakers was acknowledged by the chair, and then the order of speakers was altered.
Would you, one way to do this would be you withdraw your motion, I suppose, and he can go first.
The issue is that somebody needs to first, well, is there an ordinance that's been moved? If there is no ordinance that's been moved, then I'll withdraw my motion, let Mike make a motion, because then I will move to defer, because that will send whatever we're doing to the next council meeting.
Well, we've gotten ourselves into a little bit of a tangle here. Sir?
No ordinance itself has been moved. The motion was to vote on the matter without describing the matter. If a motion had been made to either approve or to bring to the floor the ordinance as presented and has attached to the council packet, then that would be a motion to approve an ordinance or a motion on the ordinance. A motion to vote is not a motion. I mean, is not an ordinance.
Okay, the first motion was to defer.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
okay, then-
I probably should have called on Mike Madigan first, but,
If there's no motion on the floor, then my motion is out of order. So I withdraw my motion.
There's no motion to approve or disapprove an ordinance. It's just a motion
yeah.
to take a vote.
Right.
So Therefore, your motion probably would be out of order. But if there is a motion to bring the ordinance as drafted to the floor, and then an amendment, then the amendment will take precedence. But right now, there's no motion on an ordinance.
So, if there is a motion, how do you, Mike Madigan wants to vote, to say we should vote on it right now. How does, then can defer be the amendment if they want to defer it?
Sure, if, you know.
So everybody gets their say.
Technically, there should be absolutely no discussion.
Okay. Well, Mike Madigan, would you like to put it on the floor?
Well, anybody who supports it can move for its passage. I was doing it in the effort to defeat
Okay.
its
I
passage.
gathered
So, if someone who actually supports this ordinance wants to move it and Charlie wants to defer it, then, and if that takes precedence, there's no point in me making a motion.
that. Okay. Okay.
Well, just to move this along, I will move the passage of the ordinance.
Okay, the ordinance is number 20, I did read it. Ordinance number 2013-06-054, an ordinance designating a historic landmark at 1404 South Lincoln Avenue, Zeta Tau Alpha Sorority House. So there's a motion by, was it Charlie? Or Eric, seconded by Charlie. Okay,
Mayor?
Charlie.
And now I will move to defer this ordinance to our next council meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion to defer, seconded by Dennis Roberts. That requires a roll call vote?
No,
Does not.
It's automatic.
All right. I'm
Okay.
getting put through my paces here.
Not on a deferral.
There's no vote on a deferral. I guess we don't really defer things too much. We usually beat them to death. Diane?
Just a clarification. The next council meeting then is August 5th, and that's a committee of the whole meeting?
We actually canceled, well, I'd like to cancel, but that was not part of your motion, was it? I mean, we can deal with that separately if you want to change the calendar.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Just asking, when is the next meeting?
Well, I had written to everybody that we would have it committee of the whole on the 11th. But if you want to have a special council meeting on the 5th, or a council meeting on the 5th, with only one topic, you can do that. Mr. Simon.
Just a point of the zoning ordinance. There is a time frame in which the council must act from the date that the Historic Preservation Commission has made its recommendation, and that time frame runs out on August 5.
Oh, well, okay.
And then if no action is taken, then it dies and no further action can be taken vis-a-vis this particular property for 12 months.
Okay. Well, some people, yeah, but some people want to meet, and it's up to the council whether they want to meet or not. Okay, all those in favor of, you have to vote on deferral, did you say? No. You don't vote on deferral. Okay. Maybe somebody, it is deferred. Maybe somebody wants to talk about dates. Charlie?
Well, we have to meet August 5th to meet the deadline on this. And I think at that time, we can also provide for a Skype session with anyone who wants to attend so they don't have to travel. I think Ms. Tamalitis should be offered the same opportunity. We have multiple laptops. We can arrange for Skype. We can arrange for teleconferencing. And August 5th, we can take care of any critical city business that needs to be done. We can have the township meeting, and then we can have this as the only topic, that regular scheduled meeting.
Okay.
So I think we should stick with that.
I think it takes 2 council members to request a meeting. Is that correct? We usually just do it by conversation, but if it's contentious, then, well, there's no such thing as, well, we haven't voted on it.
Well,
Okay.
I also request a meeting on August 5th.
Okay, well, we'll have a meeting on August 5th if that's the consensus.
May I comment?
Yeah, I think, well,
Can you be here on August 5th?
I just wanted to comment. I appreciate the effort to save us the expense of traveling, but if I Skyped, I would not have access to my counsel for advice. So I would need to come again for the 4th time to be here in person.
Can we also just have a clarification of what exactly will happen at that meeting? Will it be an evidentiary hearing? Will it be, we didn't.
I think it's voting on the ordinance.
With
Which
some
is
sort of presentation by.
People
Let
can
me-
speak to it if they want to.
Oh, but
Eric?
But I think that the intent of what Dennis said was that the people, the property owner and her counsel would have the opportunity to cross-examine the applicant as if in a Historic Preservation Commission hearing. So I don't think that the ordinary time limits that we have for public, it wouldn't be an ordinary public comment kind of a time limit.
So in other words,
not
we're trying
those-
to repair the damage that's been done by not following the ordinance,
Well-
which is clear that they should have had this opportunity in front of the Historic Preservation Commission, and now we are basically saying that we're going to let you try to fix this now. And I just think that's totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. The cow's out the barn.
Well, and
Robert
we were
Myers.
just. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, real quick, I thought I would just clarify. The way I read it, it said that the recommendation of the Preservation Commission, quote, shall then be forwarded to the Urbana City Council for consideration at a city council meeting occurring within 60 days following the date of the close of the public hearing. So I just wanted to add that. Shall be forwarded to the Urbana City Council for consideration at a city council meeting occurring within 60 days following the date of the close of the public hearing.
What was the date of the close of the public hearing?
Let me refer to my file, and I'll get that information.
60 days.
Oh,
So it's like 2 months. I don't know if it's been going on that long. Eric?
yeah, but what I understood Jim to say is not that it should be presented to us by a certain time definite, but that we need to act on it by that time. Is that and one way or the other? Okay. So anyway, I'll just respond to Mike. Mike, I wasn't in favor of carrying this over. I wanted to vote on it tonight, but anyway, it's we can't do it because of the the procedural things. So.
The only procedural thing is you're missing a vote. What else procedurally are we missing?
Oh, no, because the motion to defer
Takes precedence.
Oh, okay.
Under
unfortunately.
Urbana
Yep.
City Council rules. Carol?
And I just wanted to go back and, again, highlight how this is being, in my opinion, strongly manipulated. In the email earlier today, the council received a notice of cancellation of the July 22nd and August 5th meeting, at which point then I scheduled something else for August 5th, expecting not to have a council meeting per the mayor. And so now we will adjust that so that we can make this work. And I think, again, this is just an example of the manipulation of this process.
Charlie?
Well, staff disagrees with Jim on how quickly we need to take action. The one way to read this ordinance is that we have 60, if it's been sent to council for consideration, it's in consideration within 60 days. It doesn't say we have to vote within 60 days, in which case we wouldn't need to meet August 5th. So that's the problem. That's why I'm.
When was the vote by the Historic Preservation Commission?
June 5th.
June 5th. Okay, July.
And if it would be helpful, we can get you the case law that says that consideration means a vote.
Well, the case law that I've looked at isn't on point. The problem is if it's merely consideration, we start consideration, applying that kind of an interpretation would suggest we could take 5 years after it's first introduced into a council meeting to consider. Now, one way to address this, and that would really be up to the owner and council, and that would be if they are willing to waive the 60-day rule, so everyone's clear on that, to try to figure out how everyone wants to proceed. But again, that's up to them, and assuming the council and the mayor want to extend that invitation, which I thought Dennis may have done, but
Okay, so your opinion is that it must be voted on August 5th, is that correct?
I think a logical interpretation of consideration in this instance, the word consideration, I researched that, does not necessarily mean take action, but the logical consequence of placing it on an agenda and starting discussion would technically leave this thing open for as long as somebody wanted to leave it open.
Okay, as I said, I think council members can call for a council meeting. I think it takes 2 council members, is that correct? So if there are 2 council members that would like a meeting on August 5th, we can have the meeting. When I send something out, it's not a law, it's just what we sort of thought was a reasonable thing, but if people have other reasons, then we can certainly consider them. 2 people that want to have August 5th? Okay, Eric Jacobson wants August 5th. Is there another person?
Yes, I'll say.
Okay, we have 2 people that have requested it, so we'll meet on August 5th. Okay? Thank you. Next, Dennis, reports of standing committees. That would be the Committee of the Whole.
All right, so from the Committee of the Whole, we have quite a few number of ordinances and resolutions that are coming before the council, and I'll go through them. Beginning with ordinance number 2013-07063, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for the year 2013-14, moving parking enforcement from Police Department to Finance Department. And for the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Is that correct? Did you want to say something, Eric?
Yeah, I would like to say something. I wasn't really quite thinking fast enough last week or the last time when we saw this first, but I'm really wondering at the timing of moving anything to the Finance Department at a time when it is, really not stable, and wondering whether it would be good to postpone it. Of course, if we're just being asked to ratify a fait accompli, and if it's already been done, I'll cast a symbolic no vote, but it doesn't seem to me to be the appropriate time.
I think that they're already doing it, and they have the staff that's experienced in doing it. So I don't think it creates an extra burden on them, and we are dealing with the gaps in the staff at the moment, but we don't have gaps in the parking part. So did you make a motion? And it was seconded by Charlie. Anyone else? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
No.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Dennis?
Next is a resolution number 2013-07036R, a resolution to adopt a sustainable water management plan. I move for the council with approval.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Oh, hi. Scott
evening, Mayor and
Tess
Council.
is here.
I just wanted to describe briefly some documents in front of you. In the packet, you had a copy of the resolution. You had a copy of just one-page excerpt instead of, just in the interest of saving some paper, I didn't reprint the entire Sustainable Water Management Plan. Just printed the one page that we changed based on staff comment, council comments at Committee of the Whole. And then there's also a memo in the packet that responds to some of the discussion that we had at Committee of the Whole as well. Also, I placed in front of you this evening at your seats that same excerpt. There was one small change that we needed to make with some new information after we had to turn in council packet. After we turned in council packet, we learned that the water conserving urinals that we're proposing to install would not be installed by city staff, would have to be contracted out to be done properly, and so the cost is more substantial than the original estimate, and so again, the payback period is longer. So that's the two changes that were made. One, we added payback periods to all of the retrofits that we were proposing, and then two, the document that I placed in front of you tonight has that adjusted payback period for Action 4. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions for Scott? Okay. Do we have a motion on this?
We've
Okay,
already
motion
gone
and
that
a
far.
second. So would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Hammonds?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Dennis?
An ordinance number 2013-07058, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance concerning fire thermal cameras for the year 2012-13. I move approval.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay. Resolution number 2013-07030R. A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Champaign, the County of Champaign, and the Village of Rantoul concerning the Edward Bayard Memorial Justice Assistance Program, grant program for the year 2013. And for the council, I move, for the committee of the whole, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries. Dennis?
Resolution number 2013-07029R, a resolution for improvement by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code concerning Airport Road East reconstruction project. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by
Michael?
Madigan. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Okay, resolution 2013-07031R, resolution certifying a community housing development organization for the Urbana Home Consortium for the year 2013-14, Habitat. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, and actually, I probably could do the next three, which all concern the Home Consortium, Habitat, Shudo. There's two. Yeah, okay, so I'll just continue with this one. Resolution number 2013-32R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement. That's all it says.
I think it's actually on the next page as well. There are two item
Oh.
Gs.
Oh,
Okay.
geez, you're right. Okay, resolution number 2013-07-032R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organizational Agreement, Habitat Shudo Developer Affordable Home Ownership Program, 1007 North Berkeley. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons? Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Resolution number 2013-07033R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium Community Housing Development Organization Agreement, Habitat Trudeau operating July 2013. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Okay, next comes an ordinance 2013-07060, an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain real estate, 1007 North Berkeley Avenue. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes.
Next comes the ordinance number 2013-07-061, an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain real estate. This is 810 East Park Street, and for the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe? Mayor Pressing?
Yes.
Next, an ordinance number 2013-07059, an ordinance approving a minor amendment to the City of Urbana and the Urbana Home Consortium Plan for the year 2011 to 12 Annual Action Plan. This is concerning transitional housing or rental rehab. For the committee, I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Okay, next is Resolution 2013-07034R, a resolution approving a supportive housing program subrecipient agreement with the Center for Women in Transition for the year 2013-14. And for the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Next comes Resolution 2013-07035R, a resolution approving a supportive housing program subrecipient agreement with the Salvation Army for the year 2013-14. I move approval from the Committee of the Whole.
Okay, motion by Roberts and seconded by Smythe. Is that correct? Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
I have to abstain on this one.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Okay, this is an ordinance 2013-07064, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for the year 2012 to 13 concerning CDBG funds, community development services funding. For the committee, I move approval.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Ammons. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, ordinance number 2013-07062, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3, Section 3-43. This increasing the number of Class R215 liquor licenses for Derek Aikman, DBA, The Bread Company, 706 South Gooden Avenue. For the committee, I move approval.
Okay, motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. And there was some question about this, and we put in an explanation. When there's a change of ownership, the old license disappears, and so the new owner has to apply for a license. And you have a memo that was included in the packet. Are there any other questions? Did you have a question? Oh, yes, Mike Madigan.
I need to recuse myself due to conflict of interest.
Okay. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
That motion carries.
Okay, and finally, ordinance number 2013-07-062, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3.
We just
did that one. That means I'm done.
You're done.
I was on a roll and I couldn't stop, but I put
Okay.
the brakes on and allowed that thing to pass.
Reports of special committees. Mr. Roberts.
Yeah. We haven't really talked about this very much here in City Council, and probably for the benefit of the listening audience, but as a member, the chair of the Urbana Sister Cities Committee, I want to just inform everyone that we're sending a delegation of 6 individuals, including the mayor, myself, Dan Marlin, and John Marlin, Maria Ryan, and Chris Storr, to on a Sister Cities delegation trip to China, where we're reciprocating a meeting that a visit from a group of people from the Haizhou area of Guangzhou City in China made to Urbana in May of last year, and during which time we signed an intent to form a Friendship City agreement. And so it's our turn to repay the visit, and we have a special purpose in mind, which is because the city of Urbana is one of 3 recipients nationally to be awarded a Sino-African Initiative grant by the Sister Cities International Office in Washington, D.C. And this grant has to do with participating in an improvement to the but to the health. And it wouldn't hurt if it was the wealth, but it's really the health and sanitation conditions in our sister city of Zomba in Africa. And it requires participation in a trilateral manner, so it's also going to be involving a sister city in China, which is our Haizhou district sister city. We'll be taking this trip to fulfill the intent of that grant and to invite the administrative officers of Haizhou district in China to participate in the grant and to travel to Malawi to advise and contribute their thoughts and expertise in engineering and counseling to our sister city program. And to that end, we're going to be leaving on Wednesday. We'll be coming back at the end of July. We're also going to be visiting a couple other locations, but our main purpose is to go to Haizhou. And we've created booklets printed in both English and in Chinese, 16-page booklets which inform our Haizhou friends about the history of our sister city program in Urbana, and inviting them to participate as citizen diplomats across the continent and across the globe.
And I'd like to point out that city funds are not being used for our travel.
Yes.
Just to make that
I can reiterate
clear.
that this is all coming out of individual pockets. I will say that the grant is allowing for some travel recompense for Chris Storr and I, because there is grant money for travel in the grant itself, and only 2 people can go. And since we're the heads of the program and the manager of this particular initiative, we're pretty much duty bound to attend.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there reports of officers? Any reports of officers? Okay, we'll move on to new business, which is appointments. I have appointments to Plan Commission, Tyler Fitch as the chair, Sustainability Advisory Commission, Ryan Wolber, and Public Arts Commission, Robin Douglas. Do you want to do them all at once? Or? Okay, and then reappointments to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, Susan Jones and Michelle Guerra. Community Development Commission, Jerry Moreland. Human Relations Commission, Daniel Larson and Aisha Lamb Sobe. MOR Development Review Board, Brian Adams. Sustainability Advisory Commission, Stephen Wald. Urbana Free Library Board, Ann Ha Ho. And then we have 2 intergovernmental appointments, GIS Policy Committee Representative William Gray, and UC2B Technical Committee Charlie Smythe.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ammons, seconded by Roberts. Diane.
Just wanted to make a couple of comments. One, I wanted to express appreciation to Michael Pollack, who has served as chair of the Plan Commission and recently stepped down from the Plan Commission. I just wanted to thank him. I appreciate his service on the Plan Commission. He's done a tremendous job. And then my second comment is, I think Charlie Smythe asked the mayor's office for a list of all the current board and commission openings, and I don't know if you were going to say anything about it, but I'll say something about it. We have a lot of openings on boards and commissions. There are like 16 openings on commissions and boards such as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission, the Cable Commission, Civil Service Commission, Civilian Police Review Board, Community Development Commission, Human Relations Commission, Plan Commission, Public Arts Commission, and the Design Review Board. And I would just like to encourage anyone who has an interest in serving on a commission or having an impact on your neighborhood, how the city looks, how the city functions, and how we operate. This is an excellent opportunity for the public to be involved. So you can go to the website and download an application, and I really encourage the public to consider participating.
And we ask council members to make suggestions, too, because we do recruit people.
Absolutely. Start looking.
Okay. We haven't voted yet, have we?
There's 2 more.
Oh, Charlie.
Yeah. I too want to thank Michael for his years of service. I think he did 8 years on the city council, then turned around and did, is it 16 or 20 years on the Plan Commission? He's been on the Plan Commission ever since, I believe. So it'd be 12 and 8. So he's done at least 20 years of service to the city. I hope he's been recognized in some appropriate fashion.
Well, he has done an outstanding job. He was a very fair and good chairman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Eric.
I'm sure he was very fair and good because I was impressed with him. And then I had a conversation with somebody who is often on completely the different side of issues regarding, they come before the Plan Commission, who also commented on how good and fair Michael was. So I think, yes, he was, I think whatever people's particular perspectives were, they thought that Michael was being fair to their point of view.
Dennis.
And I think it's only appropriate to mention that I think we all received an email from Ryan Wolber, who's been nominated for the Sustainability Advisory Commission. He regretted that he couldn't make the meeting, but he really wanted to because he felt he should be present to answer any questions that people might have. And I emailed him back and I said, you probably don't realize this, but very few people actually do come. So he certainly showed the right spirit, and I appreciate that.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we, based on our resolution on resolutions, that we consider resolution number 2013-07037R, resolution directing the hiring of outside counsel and to authorize outside counsel to petition to intervene in pending litigation. So I have to move to, for us to consider it.
Right, and we need a two-thirds vote.
I would second that.
Okay. Motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself from this based on my wife's employment with Carl.
Okay. Do we need a roll call for we do need one, right? Go ahead, please.
Ms. Ammons? Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Okay, so it's on the agenda, and now we can move to adopt it.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Any discussion? Mr. Madigan, I'm assuming, is still recusing himself. Okay, Eric.
So I know Mr. Madigan is out of earshot, but maybe he'll appreciate this. When I doctor at Carl, I go there, and since we've had our last encounter, or since the situation has arisen with Carl, I make it a point to to interact with the staff that I go to, and I say, I love all of you guys. I love everybody who actually helps me stay healthy. It's just your top management that I think are a bunch of predators. And the interesting thing about that is that elicits some very interesting stories in corroboration of that. So, for example, that the additional $250 hospital fee caused the Carl employees who are in Health Alliance to have to actually pay an extra copay. Now they have 2 copays instead of 1. So so I think that I just want to make it really clear to the public, as I do make clear when I interact with people at Carl, that I think the people, I get wonderful, wonderful care there, and I am so much better off than I would otherwise be. And the only problem that certainly that this council person has is with what's going on at the highest levels of the management.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Ammons?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and we will see you on August 5th.